Thanks, Kat.
Amen.
Hey, just so everybody knows, I just hit the record button. We'll throw this on our YouTube, so if you want to come back and look at it, or on our Facebook page. I am going to do some announcements in a minute. I'm going to put everybody on mute, not because it gives me a false sense of power, but so we can all hear and then hear Ron. But so I'm going to mute everybody and so we can hear. Just before we get going with Ron, and this way if people are starting to come back in, here's, if you don't know us, here's really briefly what we have. I don't try to do a hard sell, everybody, but if you're looking for things to do, every Tuesday we have a Bible study. My name's Greg, by the way. I don't think I introduced myself. I'm with Woodside Bible Church. I'm the Special Needs Ministry Director. We do Bible studies on Tuesday nights at 6:30 every week. We're going through the book of Matthew, one chapter at a time right now. Sunday, we do a taped Bible lesson, and then the second and fourth Sunday of every month, we have a 2-4 hangout, we call it. And it's when we're meeting together. It's kind of like a youth group, but we meet the second and fourth Sundays. And then we do things like this. Throughout the summer, we've done bingo, we've done scavenger hunt, we've done show and tell, and we got things coming up in 2 weeks from tonight. We have a prayer, praise, and pizza night. And then in August, we have something called Will It Float? That's where I'm going to put things in my pool, and you guys have to guess if it's going to float or sink. We'll have a trivia night in August. And a real cool thing that I hope you like is Outdoors for Everyone. We had them in the church a couple of years ago, and this is a guy who has gone on hikes of the national parks, and he's got an awesome camera that he does bring these national parks to people who can't go to them. Maybe people who are poor, maybe people with special needs, maybe the elderly people. And we're going to do a virtual tour of one of these national parks. So that's what we have. And I have that information there. You can also just message me or look us up on Facebook or email me. Like I said, I don't want to hard sell. But just so you know, you guys, the format, if you've not heard Ron, he is awesome. And he's just great. He's going to tell his story. And what I want to do is, if some of you guys, if you've done Zoom before, you know you can do a chat. So if you got questions along the way, just put that question in the chat. And then when we're done, we'll circle back to those. And even we can do some of those questions live if you want throughout this. I think, some of you, if you go to our church, you've seen Ron. He doesn't attend our church, but he's been there, I think, so often we might want to have to make him a member if he comes anymore. He's got a great story. He's local to the Detroit area. He'll tell you more of his story. I don't want to go deep into that. But Ron, I'm going to try to unmute you. If I can't, you can. And then
I'm unmuted.
There you go. And I'm going to see if I can put you on speaker view, Ron. So there you go.
All right, thanks. We just got to figure out how to make switch it on to me from there. Just figure out.
Yeah, and then I've got, Ron, I've got your PowerPoint right there as well. So
all right. Can everyone see me good?
Yeah, let me see if I can get the speaker view up here, Ron. There you go. And I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger here. The problem is I think I'm an expert on Zoom, but
yeah,
I really know, and God really knows I'm not.
Switch it over so she can film it from here. See if you can figure that out real quick. My wife's filming it. So
I am too. So I write off.
No, so she can make sure it's filming good on your end.
Oh, I get it. Okay. Okay. So that's Mrs. Ron. So everybody can say hello to Mrs. Ron.
Hi.
All right, I guess we're good now.
Hey, Jeff just joined us. Jeff, we got everybody muted. So if you can mute yourself, Jeff, we're about to hear from Ron, and we'll take it away. Good background, Ron.
Oh, thanks. So you guys can see me good?
Yep.
All right. I'm going to share today my amazing journey with autism. Next picture. I work in the front line of the healthcare as a worker, as a psychiatric care specialist at Havenwick Hospital. And during this time, we've gone through a lot of struggles, a lot of doubt with fear of getting COVID. On March 12th, I went from having 40 events signed up and all ready to speak at to having 40 events that were canceled. So COVID has had a major impact on my life, having autism, both in familiarity and regularity. I like everything to follow my familiar way of doing things. I go, I speak at events, and I have a regular routine of having a calendar all set up. And COVID came in and it canceled everything. And even at work, it canceled the way my work is normally done. Normally, I just go in, clock into work, and I'm ready to go out on the medical field and work with the patients. Now, when I come to work, I have to get my temperature taken. I get asked a few questions. I get a sticker. I have more stickers now than Makayla, my 4-year-old daughter, has because of all the times going to work. I have over 100 stickers from days working since COVID has happened, which is over 800 hours of work. And an interesting thing happened right before COVID came in. It happened on January 18th. And in fact, this event was celebrated at Woodside, this man's life. In 2005, on my 30th birthday, I met with Dr. Jack Van Impe. And Dr. Jack Van Impe was my mentor. And when I met with him on that day, we talked about maybe me helping him someday carry on his ministry. Like Dr. Jack Van Impe, autism has given me the ability to have over 15,000 Bible verses memorized. I've only ever met one person in my life with as many verses memorized as me, and that's Dr. Jack Van Impe. And he ended our conversation this way: we're living in the last days when amazing things are going to happen. And he went to Luke 21:11. He said there'll be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilence in various places. And he said that word various means in places you don't expect them. And on January 18th, Dr. Jack Van Impe went on to be with the Lord. In February, his funeral was at Woodside Church. But it's interesting, right before the pandemic this man predicted for over 60 years came in, God took him out. In his whole ministry, he taught the words, come up hither, that he'd be taken out of the coming wrath. And interesting enough, the prophecies this man had came to pass. And right as COVID came in, I was feeling hopeless. I was feeling confused, scared, having autism, and I was ready to take time off work. And I went to my brother Steve and said, I'm afraid of catching COVID. And my brother Steve said, well, during the last 3 months, COVID's probably been here, and you probably already had it. And I looked back, and in February, I had an unknown virus. My daughter had an unknown virus. My wife had an unknown virus. And now I believe that unknown virus was COVID. My brother Steve said, you got to keep faith in God, and you got to look to him and trust in him. And that's what I've done during this period of time. God's blessed me and my family with health, and he's also given me a message to speak, which I'm speaking today on my amazing journey of autism. Next photo. My development began normal. I said my first word, mommy, in 9 months. And I like to say I said my first word, mommy, the day I was being water baptized. Any child who thinks they're being drowned is going to cry out, mommy, mommy. But then at 18 months, I went through a time of regression. 20% of people with autism will go through a time of regression. I went from being able to say mommy to only mom, mom, mom. And I went from, if I heard a sound like that, turning in that direction, to having no eye contact, no ability to respond to the world around me. And my mom knew there was something drastically different between me and my brother Steve and Chuck. She immediately took me to pediatricians. The pediatrician said men are like fine wine. So that's good advice for women, but not for people with a development delay like autism. Women are like flowers, they blossom quickly. And my mom knew that time was the essence. She immediately got me in intense speech therapy. I was in intense speech therapy all the way from age 2 to age 16. When I was 7 years old, my speech development was so delayed, my brother Chuck would introduce me to people saying, "You need to meet my brother Ron. I think he's from Norway because he speaks Norwegian." He'd have me speak. No one knew what I was saying, so I became an expert on Norwegian languages. Also, when I was age 7, I began kindergarten. In my development, my ability to socialize and communicate was so delayed, the school experts wanted to label me emotionally impaired. And my mom said, "It's not emotional, it's neurological. And if you can't tell me what's going on in my son's head, I'll come back to you in the fall and tell you exactly what it is." She took me to Henry Ford Hospital. Dr. Delgado did tests on me and just me for the whole day. And he came back and said to my mom, "Your son has autism." When I was diagnosed in 1982 with autism, only 1 in every 10,000 children were diagnosed with autism. Now it's 1 in every 59 children and 1 in every 37 males in the United States. And my mom went back to the experts and said, "My son has autism." They said, "If your son has autism, he'll never read beyond the 7th grade level, never attend college, never have meaningful relationships, and never excel in sports." And my mom was determined to prove the experts wrong. She quit her job as a full-time art teacher and became a full-time Ron teacher. And working with me using art, speech therapy, pre-ABA therapy, I was able to graduate from Oral Roberts University with bachelor's degrees in theology and psychology with a 3.9 grade point average. I was able to go on and get my master's of divinity with a perfect 4-point grade point average. And I got married 8 years ago, and I got married on December 7th. For you history buffs, that's the anniversary of Pearl Harbor and having autism. I came in like a kamikaze, a whirlwind of fire. The in-laws didn't know what to expect with autism entering their family. Then on March 20th, 2016, Makayla Marie was born. On the same day I got home from the hospital, my first book was waiting for me that was nationally published and in Barnes & Noble's, Parent's Guide to Autism, Practical Advice, Biblical Wisdom, which became one of the top 5 best-selling Christian books on autism all time. And none of this would have been possible without my mom's unconditional love, God's grace, and professionals working with me, showing love and acceptance and unconditional love. My mom believed in autism refined, not cured. Next picture. First, I'm going to talk about autism unrefined. Autism unrefined looked like this for me. Most people are able to control their thoughts or their impulses. With me, any thought that came to my mind, I spit it out. Autism unrefined was like this. I'm walking on the hot black pavement, walking to Lake Michigan or walking to the ocean. And as I'm walking, all of a sudden in my bare feet, I feel something sharp and jagged. I go down and pick it up. It's a piece of glass. Someone was having Miller time. Now I'm having Technoshot time. It's jagged. It's sharp. Most people, they're like bottled water. They get shaken up, stirred up. Not much is happening. I'm not at all like that. I'm more bottled like Mountain Dew. I get shaken up, stirred up, kaboom. Anyone want to do the do today? Autism unrefined is not being able to count down before I blast off. I usually blast off, but I've learned how to refine it. Now I'm going to talk about autism refined. Next picture. You're off that hot black pavement. You're walking along Lake Michigan. You're walking along the ocean. All of a sudden you feel something good. Dun, dun, dun. You pick it up. It's a piece of glass. So when it's been refined by something greater than self, it's been refined by ABA therapy. It's been refined by learning social skills. It's been refined by learning to control your emotions. And now that piece of glass, you don't throw it out. You put it on your neck as jewelry. You put it on a wall as art. And I've had many times when I was autism unrefined. My favorite autism unrefined in the workplace happened in 1996. I was working at a car wash across the street from Oakland University. And earlier in the day, I heard on 97 won the ticket. Today, Wayne Fontes was fired. He had one of the best running backs all time in Barry Sanders, an unbelievable quarterback in Scott Mitchell's, and a great wide receiver in Herman Moore. And with the #1 offense, the Lions didn't even make the playoffs. As I'm drying out those cars, who should appear at that car wash in a white Jaguar with a Cuban cigar, but Wayne Fontes himself. As I'm drying off his car, I notice that kids who work at the car wash have paper and pen to get his autograph. I go back in the back. I come back. I hand you that piece of paper. I kid you not, he looked like this. Is that what I think it is, son? Yes, Wayne. It's a job application. They announced today on 97 won the ticket that you were fired. You weren't Ford tough. Martha kicked you to the curb. And I don't want you calling Marvin begging for a check, which a lot of people due to COVID are doing now. I want you to have a chance to work at this car wash and learn teamwork. You see that fly there? That's defense. You had a little defense, you would have made the playoffs and you'd still be playing today. Needless to say, Wayne drove off and didn't say a word. For once in his life, he was speechless. And my mom knew that I had a great sense of humor. She knew I had a great memory ability. I could tell you every fact about animals. So she decided to refine my autism so I wouldn't have more Wayne Fontes moments in employment. And I'd be gainfully employed with only 3% of people with autism are. Next photo.
Hey, Ron.
Many people with
Hey,
autism.
Ron.
Yeah.
Hey, Ron, really quick, I just wanted to pause just to remind people if they have any questions or comments, put them in the chat area and we'll get to them because we just had a couple people hop on. So I wanted to make sure they knew that, Ron. But yeah, go ahead. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you.
All right, perfect. So with autism, we have special interests, parts of toys rather than the whole toys, trains, Pokemon. And when I was growing up in the 80s, the main toy everyone had was He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. We as Christians know that's Jesus. Or Transformers, more than meets the eyes. Jesus in the incarnation was more than meets the eyes. He was fully God and fully man. Or G.I. Joe, Yo Joe. For me, my special interest was very unique. It was a prairie dog named Prairie Pup. And my mom took this special interest in Prairie Pup and helped me develop social skills. One girl made him a jean jacket. One girl made him an astronaut outfit. One a cowboy outfit. One even made him a dress. And after wearing that dress, I'd have to find out from Trump if Prairie Pup would ever be able to be in the military because he wore it one time on Halloween. And my mom also noticed that with autism, I didn't only have autism, I had dyslexia. So every time I write my name, it'd be backwards. And she knew that I wasn't learning like most people learn. So what she did is she used art to teach me. She'd have me tell a story. And I'd tell her the story and she'd write down the story. She'd have me draw artwork, as you see here. This is featured in a national documentary film called Fierce Love and Art, narrated by Temple Grandin with Dr. Trefford, who's the world's #1 expert on autistic savants. He did the research and along with Dr. Lawrence A. Becker. And she'd have me draw the pictures, tell her story, then she'd have me rewrite her writing to the pictures. And within 2 years of her doing that, I went from having dyslexia to no dyslexia. My 3rd grade, next photo, teacher saw my gift in art and she entered my drawing into the Detroit Edison poster contest. And in the 80s, a commercial for Detroit Edison was "Look Up." And it was Isaiah with a child. And the child looks up and he says, "I don't see anything." And he says, "Good, there's no electrical wires." So for my poster, what I showed is I showed Prairie Pup working on building a fort near electrical wires and a squirrel with a hammer about to hit a transmitter. And it said, "Look up, you don't want to become a furry fried friend." And my prize won first, or my artwork won first prize. And for the prize, I got to meet Isaiah Thomas, who was then the captain of Detroit Pistons, who went on to be a Hall of Famer. He's the has the most all-time points for Detroit Pistons, and he's their all-time assist leader and two-time NBA champion. And all the love and support my mom gave helped me. But one of the things my mom did was real unique was she was an advocate. When I was 7 years old in kindergarten, they had a two-teacher rule. You had one teacher at the front of the room, one at the back. The one at the front made sure you didn't go out the front room. The one in the back made sure you didn't go out the back room, and they were babysitting. And my mom was inspired by Proverbs 22:29. Do you see man skilled in his labor? He was served before kings, he was not served before obscure men. And she said, if my son's in this special education, the best he's ever going to be is bagging groceries. The best he's ever going to be is washing dishes. But my son has these great gifts, and I'm going to refine those gifts, refine those talents through art and through visual learning, so he's able to succeed. And it's interesting, Temple Grandin states that 90% of all people with autism are visual learners, and yet the Holy Spirit showed my mom this years before Temple Grandin was even writing books, years before she was a #1 face of autism in the world. And God, by his Spirit, showed her that. Next picture. My favorite autism sensory issues moment happened when I was in 3rd grade. My mom took me to a Cub Scouts event, and at that Cub Scouts event, they had a clown with a red nose. He had the red hair, the white makeup, and he even had a lamb puppet on his left hand. And this clown knew nothing about autism, but he was quickly, in front of 200 people, going to become an expert on autism. He thought it'd be funny to take the hat off my head and put it on this kid's head and put it back on mine. So he uses the lamb puppet, gets the hat off my head, puts it on this kid's head. He's about to put it back on my head when I have a sensory overload. I immediately grab that lamb puppet and proceed to beat the living snot out of the clown. As the clown's little red nose went in the corner, I go flying out of there. I flew like an eagle, but I didn't get an eagle badge. I was aggressive like a honey badger, but I didn't get a honey badger badge. In fact, what the Boy Scouts did afterwards is they said to my mom, if your son would do that to a clown, imagine what he'd do to one of our children if he ever lost his temper. I was the first autistic kid officially kicked out of the Boy Scouts of America. They have all these commercials if you're abused by the scout leaders. But what if you were autistic and you got kicked out? There's no lawyers representing us right now on prime time. Next photo. My junior year of high school, my life was on the right track. I gave my life to Jesus Christ. I made him Lord and Savior, and I let go of everything. There's an old saying, those God uses the most are the ones who hold on the least. And I said, Jesus, I give you everything. I give you my track, my cross country. I give you my life and work in my heart. My junior year, God started blessing every part of my life. My junior year of high school, I memorized over 2,000 Bible verses in 1 year. I memorized the whole book of James, all 1 John, the whole Sermon on the Mount, and many other verses, and almost the complete book of Revelation, which I now have completely memorized along with 22 other books. And my junior year, my relay team ran in the state finals. We finished 12th in the state of Michigan. And on the way back from the track meet in Midland, thank God it wasn't underwater back then. We didn't have to take a boat back as you would now. We were in a car. And on the way back, Nate Clay said to Coach Bud, next year we'll be the fastest relay team for the 3,200 in the state of Michigan. But, and all as a but, you get rid of everything else. Because a big but in the way will make you forget everything else. But we won't have Ron on our relay team because he'll be past the age limit. Under the MHSAA, Michigan High School Athletic Association, if you're 3 months past 19, you're past the age limit. And I was going to turn 20 my senior year of high school. My mom, right then I heard the Holy Spirit say to me, I will provide a way for you. You'll run on the track team. I will do it. And God was speaking to my heart. And I said to Nate Clay, and I said to Coach Bud, next year, we're going to run on the track team. We're going to run one of the fastest times in the state of Michigan. And Coach Bud laughed and said in the last 20 years, no one in any high school sport anywhere in the country has competed past the age limit. My mom immediately called the MHSAA. They said it'd be a hot day in Hades before we'll let your son compete on the track team. And even though we have bad weather in Michigan, I don't think we get that bad of weather, which MHSAA was referring to. My mom started calling every major lawyer. She called the Bernsteins. They said, we can't see this case. She called Lee. He said, this isn't going to be free. She called Feiger, and he said, I'm having a few drinks on the highway, and I'll get back to you when I'm done. He was on a highway to. Of course, he never called us back. And time went on. It was about a week before the season was going to begin, and things looked hopeless. And my mom said, there's only one thing we can do right now. We can pray. So we prayed, gave it into God's hand. And I came back from a 5-mile run, and there on the front page of Detroit Free Press was a young man named Craig Stanley. He was born May 1975, same month, same year. He was a track and cross country runner, just like I was. And he was told by the Michigan High School Athletic Association they wouldn't allow him to compete on the track team, just as I had, and he had a learning disability, only it wasn't autism. So my mom called Craig Stanley's family. We got together, and the first words out of the mouth is, "Oh, it costs over $40,000 for a case," which neither of our families could afford even together. And I said, God's going to provide a way for me and Craig Stanley to compete on the track team. He showed me when we finished the state finals on the way back that he was going to do it. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And as I mentioned, my junior year, I gave my life to Jesus Christ. And to show my dedication, I decided to get water baptized. And that Sunday, I was getting water baptized. The Wednesday before, the Detroit Free Press had a front page article with me and Craig Stanley that stated there's 2 young men in the state of Michigan whose civil rights are being violated. And that Sunday, when I got water baptized, when I came out of the water, the minister looked at me at 9 a.m. He said, normally I don't give someone a word, but I heard God speak to me very clearly, Joel 2:25. I repay the years of the locust, the great locust, the young locust, the other locust, the great locust swarm. I sent an army among you, and I'm going to repay that. And he said that there is a learning disability or disability in your life that God is going to use now to repay all the things that seemed like a curse to you with blessing. And it's beginning today. And it's going to be a message you're going to have that you're going to take out to bring people in the kingdom of God. So I get home from being water baptized, and there's an answering machine. This was before cell phones. Our answering machine was about this big, and it's blinking red. I press a button, and up comes a time that the phone call came, 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning. And it begins this way. Hi, my name's Rick Landell. I just got my PhD from Boston College. I have my law degree from the University of Michigan, and all I want is to take your case pro bono. All I need is a signature, and I'll take your case. So when God's called you to something, he has people armed and dangerous waiting for you, like a Rick Landell, who's going to help bring about what he's called you to accomplish. We went out to Ann Arbor. I signed on. He took my case. We ended up running the second fastest time in the state of Michigan. I got full ride to college at Rochester College, which then became, which used to be Michigan Christian College, which became Rochester College, which became Rochester University. I don't know what they're going to change their name to next. Whew. And end up getting full ride there. But the story doesn't end there. Next picture. While writing my book, A Parent's Guide to Autism, Practical Advice, Biblical Wisdom, I interviewed 50 of the top experts in the world who work with children with autism. People like Dr. Lynn Coiney, the founder of the UCLA Autism Center. I also interviewed a man named Gary Marison. He's a top attorney in the world who takes autism cases. He also has 2 sons on the spectrum. And if you've ever heard of ABA therapy, you would have never heard of ABA therapy if it wasn't for Gary Marison. Gary Marison was told by the insurance companies, we will not pay for your son to have ABA therapy in 1997. He said, oh, good. You're not going to pay for my son to have ABA therapy. You're going to pay for everybody's son to have ABA therapy. I'm going to take you to the Supreme Court. He took 1 insurance company to the Supreme Court, 2 insurance company after insurance company after insurance company, and won major cases in the U.S. Supreme Court. And with those victories, ABA became the #1 therapy for autism because insurances have to cover it because of Gary Marison. And when I interviewed Gary Marison, he said, I know you, Ron, better than you think. And he said, I'm going to tell you the ending of your book. And I kind of turned white. He says, you're going to end your book telling the story of Anthony Starego. And whenever you do your main presentations, you're going to end your presentation telling the story of Anthony Starego. Here's the story of Anthony Starego. Ray and Ray Ann, his wife, it's kind of like Raggedy Ann and Andy, only a married couple, were unable to have children. They were strong evangelical Christians, and they decided to adopt a special needs child to show that with love and acceptance, anything is possible with God's grace. So they went to a foster home, and there was little Anthony at 6 years old going like this on a couch. Not knowing anything about autism and stemming, they took it that Anthony wanted to sit by him. They sit by Anthony, they get up, fall in love with Anthony, and they say to the director of the foster home, we want to adopt Anthony. They said, we didn't think anyone would ever adopt him. His IQ is 50. The average IQ is 100, so he had half the IQ of the average person. He also had digestive issues, stemming issues, and severe meltdowns. And they tried him in 6 other homes, and things didn't work out. And Ray said, we know God spoke to us when we saw him do his flopping of his hand for us to sit next to him. We know God's called us to adopt him. We're going to take him in. And Ray was a huge sports fan. So he decided to try different sports with Anthony to make him come out of his shell and make him become more socialized. He tried soccer. All the kids are running around having fun. There's little Anthony with his head down, just walking down the field. He tried baseball. People are hitting line drives. Boom, it hits him in the head. He's walking like an Egyptian. Nothing seemed to work. And when Anthony was 12 years old, his dad took him to the Rutgers football game. The score is tied. There's only 3 seconds left. And Rutgers has the ball. They're in field goal position. They're playing LSU. If LSU wins, they're going to be in the playoffs and could be national champions. If they lose, they're out of playoffs hopes. And Jeremy Lin does his famous move. His famous move.
We can still hear you, Ron. We just
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah.
All right. All right. He does his famous move. He points the upright, does 3 steps forward, 1 step back, kicks, goes right through the upright. Everyone's cheering. They win. The whole way home, all Anthony can say is, I want to be a football player. I want to be a football player. His dad says, what sensory issue, you could get hit or touched. You may not want to play football, but he was undeterred. So Ray works with Anthony every single day. Anthony's junior year of high school, he makes the football team. They have a losing record on his team. His senior year, he makes the football team. They have a losing record again. Now, Anthony in New Jersey wants to play a second senior year because he's eligible for 1 extra year of high school. But the New Jersey High School Athletic Association tells him, we're not going to let you compete. So his dad calls Gary. Gary says, let me see if there's any cases on the book I can use to get Anthony out there playing football. He goes on the records for courts, and then he finds it. Sandison versus the MHSAA. He goes, I can win this case. Takes the case, wins it. But God's working in the background. He brings a star quarterback in the neighborhood. He brings a great defense. He brings a great offense. Thank God he didn't bring Wayne Fonts, or this wouldn't be a good ending. And Anthony finds himself doing his repetitive behavior in a state finals. 3 steps forward, 1 step back, kicks through the upright. Anthony wins the state finals and brings glory to God using the gift that he's given him and being able to develop his autism gifts. And then next photo, there's many different preconceptions about autism. First is that we're Einstein. Second, that we're like the guy Shelton from Big Bang, that we're kind of just quirky. Third perspective is the way our parents sometimes see us. Everybody's having fun. There we are by ourselves, isolated. How the media sees us. We're Spock. Social interest, not very interested. How we see ourselves a lot of times. I miss my planet. We feel out of place. And in my stories, you could see there were many times I felt out of place. But how we really are. There he is, the good doctor. See him in the white coat, working in the healthcare field like I am, having families. And I just want to encourage you, trust in God during this time of COVID. God is in control. He knew about COVID before it even came. There's a verse in 2 Chronicles 7:13, and it says, when I shut up the heavens so it does not rain, well, that wasn't today. Or I command the locusts to eat up the land. Or I send a pandemic among my people. Then the next verse says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and heal the land. During this time, there's one thing we need more than anything else, God to heal our land. We're a divided nation. We're a divided people. We're a people who are searching for something, and God gave us the answer in that if we'll humble ourselves, pray, seek his face, and turn from our wicked ways, God's going to bring healing to our land. And I want to encourage us to do those things as we're in this pandemic described in 2 Chronicles 7:13. And thanks so much for having me come. My book, next picture.
Oops, I'm sorry, Ron, I got off of it. Let me get back on. My mistake.
There's a parent's guide to autism, practical advice, biblical wisdom. You can get my book on Amazon or at Barnes & Nobles, either place. My third book will be coming out in April 2021, Views from the Spectrum. And Dr. Trefford, who I mentioned earlier, he did the foreword for that book, one of the top experts in the world on autism and savants. Thanks so much. If there's questions, we got time for question and answers.
Yeah, you know what, Ron? I'm going to start to scroll down these. Let me ask you one, what I thought of. Can you share, you said you've got memorized, and then when you answer this, I'll look for some more questions. Over 10,000, between 10 and 15,000 Bible. How did you do that?
Yeah.
What routine did you have?
When I first started memorizing, I had them in the Bible. I just underlined Bible verses. And then when I met Dr. Jack Van Impe the first time in 1994, my junior year of high school, he said, you'll never memorize vast amounts of scripture, over 1,000 verses, unless you memorize by subject and memorize on note cards. So I started writing them on note cards and memorizing all by subject. So 2 Chronicles 7:13 through 14, that's under forgiveness. All the verses I can tell you how I memorized, what verses are before them, what are after them. So they're all subject. Proverbs 22:29, do you see man skilled in his labor, serve before kings, do not serve before obscure men. So other verses that go there, if the axe is unsharp and more skill is needed, Ecclesiastes 10:10. Or Daniel 6:3. Now Daniel so distinguished himself by his great leadership skills that the king planned to set him over his whole kingdom. So that's under refinement and gifts. Do you see man skilled in his labor? Or do you, a gift will open man before the giver and usher him in the presence of the great. So all those verses I have memorized in my heart. Psalms 119:11 said, I have hidden my word in my your word in my heart that I may not sin against you. And that's how Dr. Jack Van Impe described memorizing the verses. They're hidden in your heart. They're also hidden in your mind chronologically, so you can pick up a verse very quickly and quote it in context. And if you had to memorize the books, you can't pick out that verse, you can pick out that book, but you're not able to quote word reference. Perfect.
Do you still have those memory
I still
cards?
have them. I still go over
Awesome.
them. I've spent over 40,000 hours during the last 10 years, or during the last, let's see, beginning in 1994, I began memorizing. So what is that? 25 years. So I've spent
Right.
over 40,000 hours memorizing Bible verses during the last 25 years. So
Great.
it took a long time, but they're still there, and God's grace.
Good. And just so everybody knows, you can still type in a question, or when we're going through the list and we're done, we'll open it up so people can ask. But David from Minnesota, Ron says this. He says, I'm 31 from Minnesota. I was not diagnosed until I was 13. I have been told I should not go to college, and I went to college and received my AAS degree in photography. I have thought about starting a disability ministry in Minnesota. That's awesome. What I'll say to you too, David, what I'll say to you too, before you hang up, I'll put on my screen my email. I've run our disability ministry for 20 years, and I'd love to help you or talk through any of that stuff if I can help you at all. Chris Baker says, and I know Chris, he's a great guy. He says, I'm 39 from Michigan. I was diagnosed when I was 12. I live with my parents because of the pandemic. I'm a part of On My Own of Michigan, which is a great organization over in Troy. And let me see.
I'd love to too someday come and speak on My Own Michigan, speak to their group, and if you could ask their leadership to ask me come out, I'd come out and speak for free. And if you can do that, that'd be great. As soon as COVID's over.
I think Alexa's on here. Yeah, great organization, great people there. We've got a good relationship with them over there. From Garrett Winfrey, he says, hi, Ron. My name is Garrett Winfrey. I'm 20 years old. I'm from West Bloomfield, Michigan. And the 4x800 relay, he plays 15th at the 2017 Michigan High School Athletic D1 state meet. How about that?
Yeah.
Do you still run, Ron?
Yeah, I still run some, but not as much. I got to get back in shape. I'm about 10 pounds overweight right now with COVID, because I normally swim every day, and all the pools are closed right now. So I haven't gotten much exercise other than at work.
Man, I would take 10 pounds. So I would take 10 pounds and call it a wash for me. Hey, Ron, before I get to the next one, let me ask you a question. I've got a real good friend named Larry. He's got cerebral palsy. So Larry once said in one of his talks, he said, if I had to do it over again, and if you were to ask me, would I want cerebral palsy all over again or start without, he said, I would take it just because of the opportunities that cerebral palsy has given me. So let me ask you, if you could start your life over, would you want to do that and still have autism or not?
I'd still want autism because it's opened up doors. The gift opens a door for the giver and ushers in presence to get great. And autism has opened so many doors for me that I want to have it, because I would have missed out on opportunity to speak at like Rob Parsley's church in front of 6,500 people, writing nationally published books, with my third one coming out. So none of that would have been possible except for the gift God's given me and the weaknesses. In my weakness, God's strength's made perfect, 2 Corinthians 12:9. So we have these treasures in jars of clay, so it's all surpassing powers from God, not from us.
I also found it interesting, kind of the doctor's reaction to your mom. And I think that even happens today. Like doctors will tell somebody who has a diagnosis, they'll tell their parents, I'm sorry, your son or daughter has autism. And there's already like a stereotype that person's going to have an awful life, when that doesn't have to be the case. And a lot of times it's not the case, right?
Yeah, that's true. A lot of times they give a negative way of wording it rather than a positive way.
Yeah. Okay, David Hastings says this sounds exactly like my story. That's cool. And there's a lot of stories out there like that, and they're really encouraging. Um, Chris Baker says again, he says, "Hi, Ron, what advice can you give to autistic children or adults today to help them achieve their dreams?"
I think the number one is use the gifts God's given to you for his glory. And as you serve God, he'll direct your life and he'll open up doors. And never give up. By perseverance, the snail made it on the ark. And if you go in the right direction, you persevere, God will bring about a great accomplishments in your life too.
Yeah, you know what I'm going to do right here while I do this too, Ron? For David, I'm going to give you my email and anybody else on this chat. So if you wanted help, David, with starting a special needs ministry or just kind of talk through it, I'd be more than happy. But Ron, I think when I hear your story, and this is the second or third time, and you get it right every time, by the way, is that your mom and you weren't letting society's stereotype of you define who you were going to be. You know, the society set the bar low for Ron Sandison, but your mom and you didn't, and you guys set the bar high, and you didn't let everybody else's opinion about what you could or couldn't be kind of push you down when you still had dreams to go out and achieve, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I just unmuted everybody. If anybody has a comment or a question, I don't know the best way to do it without everybody talking at once. Bridget, I see your hand up.
Yeah, it was me. I just want to ask, hold on, how old is your daughter?
Oh, my daughter's 4 years old.
Wow, that's very cool.
Thanks. Yeah, she just got pizza, so she's excited. She's at Grandma's house right now. We're over there.
Awesome.
Nice.
I'm going to open up the view a little bit more. Anybody else have any questions for Ron or any comments at all? Ron, how can people, have you got like a Facebook page, or how can they find your book, or how can they stay in touch with you if, you know, if they want to learn more about your story? You say you have your third book. It's done, isn't it? But it's not out
It's all
yet.
written, but it's still going through. Krigel's doing an intensive editing of it, and it's on their hands now. And in April 2021 is when they're going to have it come out. But they can keep in touch if they go to my Facebook fan page, Spectrum Inclusion. All they got to do is do Ron Sandison, Spectrum Inclusion, Facebook, and it comes up.
Spectrum, let's see if I can spell it right. Spectrum Inclusion.
Inclusion, like you're including everyone.
Yep. Okay, so that's a way. And if anybody's got my information, and if they can't find it, just get a hold of me. I'll connect you. Ron's got a great story. It's very encouraging.
And then my website's Spectrum Inclusion too.
Okay, the website too. Yeah. Good. Good. Oh, look at Gabe's there. How's Gabe doing? Anybody else have any questions at all?
No.
Or any comments at all?
Love it. Love it.
Oh, thanks.
Really good.
Yeah, it was great, Ron. I appreciate every time I hear it, I'm encouraged.
Me too.
You know, I'm encouraged to, you know, when things don't go our way, or when when other people say no, you know, that seemed to really kind of fuel your fire, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything? Any other questions? I'll keep in touch with me if you guys have any questions. We do have a lot of things going on that you can, you know, I run by this rule. Not everything is everybody's thing, but we do some things. And if you want, in the fall, we're going to do probably bingo again. And scavenger hunt again. Those were fun, but I appreciate Ron. And
Well, thanks so much.
it was great. Stay in touch. Go to Ron's Facebook page. Ron Sandison is his name, and he'll probably even be your Facebook friend. I'm guessing he's friends with me, so he'll be friends with anybody.
Cool.
So
Hey.
if you don't mind me praying us out, we could call it a night, and
thanks.
then you guys can have a great weekend. Father, thank you, Lord,
You
for
too.
tonight. Thank you for Ron and his story. Thank you that everybody can make it here. I pray they have a good night, stay safe, and have a great weekend in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, guys. This was so fun.
Bye.
This was so fun.
Thank you.
So we're going to let Ron get to his pizza that he has at his in-laws' house. But you guys have a good weekend. It was great to see some of you
You
guys.
too. Thanks,
Great to see
Greg.
your
Thanks,
faces.
Ron.
Jennifer, good to see you.
Bye,
you.
Pat.
It was great.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.